have fire extinguishers? Because we're seeing more and more fires these days.
Yeah, the issue of fire extinguishers and the frequency of fire incidents today is very embarrassing to the country. We are developing, we've been talking about um, um, being among 20 most industrialized by the year 2020. But we must start from the scratch. Basic protections for homes, for offices. We are still having fire. Now, the extinguishers, you see extinguishers in most offices, most workplaces, but are they really in good condition? Are the people around there trained to handle it? Because why we have fires, almost every fire you see starts as small fire, incipient fire. Now, inability to see or take note of the fire when it started will lead to the fire becoming a big fire. And then also, if you see the fire early enough and you are not knowledgeable on how to use the basic appliance within your reach,
Yeah.
you are just the same thing as the man who didn't see the fire. So eventually, what we have today is the absence of the skill to use these basic fire appliances around us. Today, the government is installing hydrants around the city. Now, these hydrants, we feel they are only for the first responders, the fire service. But individuals who live very close to such hydrants, if they have fire, and those of them who may buy the type of hose and the couplings, they can use those hydrants in taking water to their own places for fighting fire. The water is not the water to drink, because our people need to be told to. Otherwise, people will go there to fetch water.
And by the time you finish drinking it, when there's no fire, there's no water.
Well, one of the things I would like us to also, draw attention to is really the root and the causes of this fire. And I think that's where we need to also enlighten a lot of the public, more, which usually starts more from electrical issues, mishandling, wrong handling, less competent people touching our electrical wirings, so it's very important because fire doesn't start on its own. In as much as we must know how to take them out, we must also know how to prevent them from happening, which is what, the Institute is really hammering about. The fire triangle is very, very key for us to know. For example, right now we also have a lot of, fuel scarcity. There are a lot of people storing fuel as well. So really, if you do store fuel, you need to store them properly. And if you must store them, you must store them properly in the right container.
Proper way.
Which is the
Exactly.
proper
What's
way
the
to
proper
store.
way to
Yeah.
store?
And then avoid, you see, a fuel on its own in the right container will not cause fire. It is really the ignition of maybe a strike from a match or a flame
Cigarette butt.
that is exactly cigarette butt, or perhaps an electrical ignition as well.
Let's look at the
That would
storage.
combine.
When you say fuel alone in the right container, what's the right container to put the fuel in?
Let me look at that now, because the right container, if you go to the oil depots where they store fuel, some oil depots store petrol in containers, and they use the metal drum. They don't put them in plastic containers. When there is fire, and the fire is not caused by fuel, it's coming from other source, the heat is enough to ignite the fuel that is kept somewhere. The heat is enough to melt a plastic container that is used for storage. So if it's in a metal container, you can use water and
Cool down the
cooling the container when the fire is burning on the adjacent environment. So that you can do, but with plastic, the plastic itself will get
It's
heated
flammable.
and melted.
Melt.
So now you
So
must.
are you therefore saying that it's safer to store your fuel in metal containers?
Yes,
Absolutely.
Okay.
it's
And
safer.
airtight. They're usually airtight as
It is
well.
airtight,
Airtight.
and you can see that the thread, you know, the thread of the lid is such that is watertight or liquid tight or airtight, but the plastics are not.
Okay, as we wind down, how do you advise Nigerians to go about being a little bit more safety conscious? I mean, the viewers out there, how do you advise them to be a little more
Okay.
safety conscious?
For our viewers, the safety consciousness we're talking about now is a little reflection on the journey so far as a people. Shows that we have had a lot of calamities, fires, claiming markets, claiming homes, killing people, and then that is enough to make us become conscious or afraid of a repeat, because we say history repeats, especially the negative or unpleasant aspect of history repeats when the people fail to learn from it. So we've had a lot of these calamities. So what we are talking about now is let everybody be conscious that this thing is possible. Most people, we are not going to talk to the Nigerian public in terms of the ordinary man in the street only. We're talking to government officials, we're talking to town planners, we're talking to people who are planning estates and residential environments, and we are saying those buildings that are very close to filling stations, some block of flats have filling station on their basement. That is very dangerous. And we're also saying that town planners must know that residential areas and industrial areas must be distinguished.
Okay. Mr. Dibon.
Well, in a nutshell, they say charity begins at home. We've also mentioned about the home safety consciousness. Yes, certainly we receive things more when we're in our homes. You know, we're more receptive. We listen more because we want to protect our home, and we know that this is where we're going to also sleep in. So really, we need to increase our safety consciousness at home and practice them. There's a lot of saying, but there is very limited practice. And so once you're safety conscious, take it everywhere you go, even at workplace. Don't say that you're not the person in charge, you know, and use the right approach to correct things rather than complain. You know, what are you able to contribute? What are you able to add as a solution to that?
All right, thank you very much. We've been focusing on safety issues at home and at work, at play as well. But we want to thank you, Chairman of the Institute of Safety Professionals, Lagos Branch, Engineer Timothy Wagu. Thank you for coming. And Daminga Odebumi, Director General, Lagos State Safety Commission, and a fellow of the Institute as well. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Sunrise will be back in a moment for another interesting topic. Don't go away.